and welcome to episode 3 of Crash Test Diva. I'm your host, Christy Eichers. On today's show, I'll share a very recent Ding Dong Doozie about a Halloween costume party. Our Long Distance Serenade will feature a song from a Minnesota music legend. And I got my sister Annie back to take some low-carb treats for a test drive. I thought I'd start this episode and explain why we are calling our podcast Crash Test Diva. Well, obviously, it's a nod to a crash test dummy. Crash test dummies are put through paces to provide invaluable information to make new cars stronger, smarter, and safer. We want our podcast to, make you stronger. We want to strengthen your amusement muscles. Grown, whatever. Smarter. We hope to provide a generous dose of quote-unquote smartass. And safer. We want to create a safe zone to laugh at yourself and us. Now, there are multiple interpretations of the word diva. Webster's descriptions of a diva are not always flattering. Fill in your favorite pop star. Now, for the purpose of our show, we are going to exercise our creative license and redefine diva. A crash test diva is someone who's feisty, fun, and fortunate. They survive the bumps and bruises along the way, and in spite of it all, feel blessed to look back, laugh, and just keep living. Now, if I have any men on the show, I'm going to call them divos, and I'll pretend they're either Latin or members of an 80s pop band who wore little red hats. Crash test dummies are built to help us escape our car accidents. We are hoping the Crash Test Diva podcast will help you escape your daily drudge. It's a time for you to tune in and tune out of your reality. With that, let's get started. It's time for our Ding Dong Doozie. I used to love Halloween. I'm one of those people who loves to figure out what to wear, costumes. I have maybe 2 costume boxes in my basement. But I must confess, it's been years since I've dressed up and gone to a party. This was going to be my year. 2017 was going to be my year to get back into Halloween. Thankfully, I got invited to 2 parties. On Friday night, I was invited to my friend Mark and Philip's party. And on Saturday, I was going to be a part of a SNL ensemble costume. They needed a 4th morale sister from the Lawrence Welk sketch. And there was still a dress on the rack to match them. So I just needed to learn the song. Now, I'll post a link to YouTube about the actual sketch in the show notes. Friday night, the costume was a little bit easier. I got my inspiration last spring. You know how some costumes require a lot of work? Well, this one was just going to be simple. It was a good way for me to ease back into this Halloween holiday. I just needed a partner in crime for this costume. Thankfully, my friend Julie Bodie was a willing participant. I'll first describe what we're going to wear as our costumes. We were going to put on all black dresses. We did put on all black dresses. And then we wore these black, lacy, kind of handkerchiefy things in our hair. No, this was not a nod to 80s Madonna, Lucky Star. Our inspiration was from a photo posted of the Trump's visit to the Vatican. I don't care what your politics might be. I'm sure you can agree that Ivanka and Melania are very pretty women. But when I saw the photo of them with the Pope, again, I'll link the photo in our show notes. I just thought it looked really funny because they looked absolutely miserable. Now, to assist people in trying to figure out who we are, because we were just wearing black with doilies in our hair, Julie, who is a very gifted graphic designer, printed out these oversized tickets that read Admit 1 to the Vatican. I picked Julie up and we decided we should grab a drink and an appetizer before the party. I figured it was the weekend before Halloween, so there would be a lot of people out dressed up. We walked into this restaurant and nope, nada. Nobody was dressed up. And let's be honest, our costumes were not over the top. We looked like a couple gals in mourning, drowning our sorrows in margaritas and guac. When we first walked into the restaurant, I thought I'd be silly and maybe tip the waiter off that, in fact, we were indeed dressed up. So when he said, "How you doing tonight?" I said, Great. We are on our way to the Vatican to see the Pope. He said, wow, that's cool. Oh my gosh. Let's just say he gets the first Ding Dong Doozie of the night. Now, while we were having our pre-party cocktail, I was giving Julie a little background on our party hosts, Mark and Philip. I told her they always threw these amazing parties, over-the-top decor, cocktails, food. And then I happened to mention that the week prior, I went to Philip's mom's funeral. Julie looked at me and said, you don't see a problem with our costumes? Now, thankfully, we had those oversized tickets to get us off the hook. But Julie just shook her head and said, this night is not going to end well. We left for the party, and I knew the general area where we were going, but I needed a little help navigating. So I gave Julie my phone to assist. As we turned on the road, I said, I think it's right up there. And she said, no, I think you need to go further. That can't be it. There's nobody there. We went a little further and then reread the address. And yes, indeed, we had gone too far. I said, yeah, it was back there. And I kind of was thinking out loud. And I said, maybe it's in the backyard. I see some twinkle lights on back there. Now, keep in mind, it was about 35 degrees outside. I was just baffled. Now, when I told somebody this story the next day, they interjected, oh, it was a fancy party and they had one of those valet services? No, they didn't have valet. Julie and I pulled into the driveway and looked a little closer on the invitation. And lo and behold, we were there the night before. I picked up my phone and dialed Mark. It was about 8:30. I said, we're here a night early in our costumes. He started to howl. And while we were still on the phone, he opened the front door in his cozy, relaxing clothes, flannel PJ pants and a t-shirt. He and Philip had been watching some Netflix. They welcomed us in and they opened a bottle of wine. We sat, talked, laughed a lot about my big blunder in showing up a night early in costume. And we were there for over an hour. You could call this an epic Ding Dong Doozie. However, I will forever refer to this as an epic pre-party. It's time for a segment we call Taking It for a Test Drive. This is the portion of the show where we tell you about products we recently discovered, stuff we think you might like. Joining me again today is my sister Annie, and today we have a bit of a theme. Since carbs have become public enemy number one, we want to share some of our favorite low-carb treats. Hi, Annie.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Now, I'm going to let you go first because I think you've got two for this report. So which one are you going to share first?
I am going to start with Boarshead Pepperhouse Gourmaise.
Okay.
And it is a delicious condiment product that I found when I was at my Kowalski's, and they were sampling it with a little bit of ham, a little bit of cheese, and a tiny dollop of this pepper-flavored mayonnaise. And it was delicious. The mayonnaise includes black, green, white, and pink peppercorns, so it's got a really nice peppery zip.
So this is like aioli, but instead of the garlic in the mayonnaise, they put peppers?
Yes.
Okay.
And
so now what do you do with it?
Well, so they were telling me how great it is on sandwiches, but I don't eat bread. So what I do with it is take my thin sliced deli ham, spread a little of my gourmets on it, and then roll it around a pepper or a pickle or a asparagus spear, whatever you like. And then I make a few of those, and that's my lunch. And it is so much more delicious than just rolling up my ham, which is what I had been doing because I'm not eating very much cheese anymore. So I love it. It's just a zippy little addition.
Well, and you could probably like make some little roll-ups and put them on a platter for an appetizer.
You could do that. I'm planning on using it in my mini strombolis during the holidays as a layer with the ham. And I also use it with my egg salad. Instead of just putting plain mayonnaise in, I'll leave some out and add some of my gourmets.
That sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
So tell me how much does this stuff cost and where do we get it?
8.5 ounce bottle. It's a little squeeze bottle. Is about $4. Locally here in Minneapolis, I found it at Lund's, Byerly's, Kowalski's, Hy-Vee, and Cub. I also found it on Amazon, but it costs a little bit more because the bottle is bigger.
Okay. Good deal. Well, I'm anxious to come over for the holidays and have one of these appetizers made with your, what is it called?
Boarshead Pepperhouse Gourmaise.
Okay. Gourmaise. Oh, I get it. Like a gourmet, but it's mayonnaise. I get it. Okay. It took me a while. Sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Well, we'll link to that product in the show notes so people can see it. I'm going to go back to my 20s to share this low carb treat. And this is back at a time when I didn't really care about carbs because I think 3 of the 5 days I drove to work, I would stop at the Brugger's Bagel on Grand Avenue in St. Paul on my way to work. And I would have an everything bagel, toasted, and then a big slather of cream cheese on top. So loved that. But unfortunately, because trying to avoid the evil edible called carbs, I, have to save these bagels for a special occasion right now. But I miss that flavor. So one day I'm walking through Trader Joe's and I'm passing by their seasoning section and I see this jar and it says, everything but the bagel sesame seasoning blend. Oh my God. It was $1.99. I threw it in my cart and I was thinking about it the whole way home. What am I going to do with this seasoning blend? And then I thought back to that guy I dated. Do you remember Kevin from Florida when I lived in Orlando?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Kevin used to make these appetizers, these fancy appetizers when I'd go to his apartment. It would be Triscuits, and he would melt some cheese on top, and he'd take some McCormick seasoning blend called like salt and spice or something. He'd put it on top and melt it, and he would serve that as an appetizer.
Gourmet, very nice.
Yeah. In his defense, he was a college student, and also it probably was served as like an after bar treat, let's be honest. So, but I thought about that and I thought, well, I don't want to use the Triscuits, but I eat those Wausau crackers. They're super crunchy and they're high in fiber and whatnot. And I thought, what if I just put a thin layer of cream cheese on top of that and I sprinkle this seasoning blend on top and voila, it tastes like my everything but the bagel.
That's genius.
Oh. I love it, right?
Yes.
So that's my little fix when I need a little treat. And then I got invited to this impromptu patio party. My neighbors, Mike and Judy, invited me over for happy hour, and I thought, I can't go empty-handed. And I thought, could I make a dip? So I took a half a brick of cream cheese, a half a tub of sour cream, 2 tablespoons of the everything but the bagel sesame seasoning blend, mixed it all together, and voila. Just dip the crackers or the veggies, carrots, peppers, whatever. And I'm telling you, it is a really good dip.
That sounds awesome. I would totally get into that.
Well, so maybe I'll bring some of that for the holidays.
That would be
how
nice.
Does that sound?
That would be nice.
Okay, there you go. So $1.99 Trader Joe's. Pick one up.
Can't wait to go.
Okay, Annie, you are going to close out this segment. What is our third and final low-carb treat?
All right, so this one is a little more expensive than the other 2 we've discussed, but it is worth every penny. It's the skinny dipped almonds. I recently found these at Caribou Coffee. What makes them different from traditional chocolate-covered almonds is that instead of a thick coating of chocolate, it's a thin coating of chocolate with a dusting of cocoa powder. Therefore, there's less sugar, more fiber, and more protein per nut. They have no artificial ingredients, no GMOs, and none of the wax or polish that traditional shiny chocolates have. There's 3 flavors. There's the cocoa, there's espresso, and raspberry. Locally, we can buy them at our Caribou. We can get them at Whole Foods, or Hy-Vee carries them. You can also buy them online at Amazon. I found at Amazon that there are 3 different size packages you can buy. There's the size that I've been buying at the Caribou, which is a $3.50 for a 1.5 ounce package. But then there's also a 1/2 ounce package, which is really the perfect size when you just need a little bit of chocolate. And they also sell them in a big bag.
How much do those cost? Okay.
You have to buy 24 packages and it's $20. So they sell you a whole box of them.
Okay.
Okay, and
Oh,
then there's
so the ones at Caribou that you buy, it's probably like a couple servings. Is that what you'd say?
well, it eats. I always eat them all at once, but yes, you could split them into two. So if the bag was smaller, yes.
But did you say that the ones that you get on Amazon, like the multi-bag one, that's a smaller bag?
It's a 1/2 ounce bag. Then there's a 1.5 ounce bag, and then there's a large, like party bag, I'd call it, if you were going to put them out and serve them at the holidays. A couple things about this. They're delicious, but because they have that powdery coating, you need to be aware when you're eating them that you don't end up with a cocoa powder beard, which could happen if you're really aggressively shoving them in.
So maybe let's eat at a little slower pace and savor them.
Slower pace. Maybe check yourself in the mirror while you're eating them. Just a tip I learned.
I you know what? I've never heard of a cocoa beard, so that's kind of I don't know, it might be
maybe a facial treatment can be worked into that, but that's just something I want everyone to be aware of, that they don't get caught.
That's a good PSA for those almonds.
All right, and then the last thing, the company, which if you go to their website, which is getskinnydipped.com.
Yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes.
That was started by a mom and a daughter and a couple of their friends who were just looking for a healthier way to snack. And they are based in Seattle.
Well, very cool. Very, very cool. Well, I'm surprised that Starbucks didn't pick them up and Caribou has. There you go.
I feel like Caribou's really ahead of them on this one. So
there you go. Well, I like it. Well, Annie, thank you again for joining us. I think there's two things. I think I want to remind our listeners that you have agreed to do a promo for your jewelry. You do beautiful copper enamel jewelry, and you've agreed to give us a little promo code for our listeners to get 25% off through December 20th. Where should they go to check out your jewelry and take advantage of this?
Go to my website, which is handmadeinminnesota, all spelled out.com.
And there's no E. I have to remind people there's no E at the end of it. But again, we'll link to this in the show notes. No E after Ann, even though I call you Annie. Okay, handmadeinminnesota.com.
And then it'll take you, there's a link there to take you to my Etsy shop. And the promo code you need is Diva Deals 25. And it's good on anything that's in the shop right now.
Yeah, and I have to tell everybody, I think my favorite thing that you added to your fall collection this year is this long chevron necklace. I have it in a few colors, and I love it. And I think if you have any woman on your list that likes jewelry, you might want to check that out, and you could just take care of your holiday shopping. So thank you for offering that deal.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I want to just remind people that I think you are working on what for the next time we have you on?
All right, it's going to be stocking stuffers for those difficult teenage boys and men in your life.
Oh, boy. Well, I can't wait to hear all about that. So happy researching, my friend.
Almost done.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Unfortunately, I don't have any bumper music for this segment, so forgive this abrupt transition. The title of this segment is Tip of the Day, a bit of a nod to the Irish. This portion of the show is like that column, Hints from Heloise. We will share with you some things we stumble upon that can make your life a little easier. One of the reasons we started this podcast is because we understand that life is difficult. This is our chance to share some simple tips. Nothing we share is going to be earth-shattering, just little things that may come in handy. Or maybe, like the Irish, they could be full of a bit of blarney. Before sharing this tip, I need to tell you a bit about myself. The following words have never been used to describe me: quiet, shy, or subdued. In no way do I fit into the quote-unquote delicate flower category. I feel like people may describe me as a bit of a bull in a china shop. When I'm working on anything, I dig in and get dirty. I love to cook and always end up with a very messy kitchen and a ton of dirty dishes. To tackle the dirt and grime, I'm not the gal who straps on the set of yellow kitchen gloves. I'm hard on my hands and my nails suffer the consequences. Manicures don't last long. I challenge you to ever look at my hands and not find a chip in my nail polish. But worse than chip nails, it's the snag nail. For whatever reason, whatever I do, I notoriously tear a nail, and it usually happens on a thumb, and it's usually way far back in the nail bed. I know some of you are cringing right now. I'm sorry. Long ago, somebody told me to use a dot of super glue to quote unquote save the nail. Apply a bit of the glue so the nail, it'll grow back a bit more and won't be so painful when you have to clip it. Well, super glue to save a torn nail is not earth-shattering. I've been doing it for years. However, one of my biggest frustrations with super glue is the tube drying up before I have to use it again. A while ago, while shopping with my mom at her favorite dollar store, the Dollar Tree. Yes, according to her, there are very big discrepancies among dollar stores. So I guess maybe that's my first tip. Only shop at the Dollar Tree. Don't be fooled by other dollar stores that may charge more than $1 and might not be as nice as the Dollar Tree. Okay, back to the nail tip. At the Dollar Tree, they sell these single-use tubes of super glue. You get 4 little tubes for $1. Now this is genius. No more throwing away full tubes. I keep one in my purse, one in my car. The rest go with my nail supplies. And once I do uncap a tube, if I can prop it upright, I even sometimes get to use it a few more times. So there you have it, the tip of the day. Swing by your local Dollar Tree dollar store to pick up some single-use superglue tubes. They are a convenient and economical way to save your snag nail. You're welcome. It's time for our Long Distance Serenade. This is the nostalgia portion of our show. It's a time to pay tribute to my favorite part of Casey Kasem's American Top 40, the long distance dedication. But instead of sappy love stories of lovers torn apart by miles, we're going to celebrate friendships. Those friendships that when you hear a song, it takes you right back to a time and a place with those people that you love from your past. Well, maybe you still love them. I hope you still love them. Anyway, this is the part of the show where I'm going to need some input from listeners. All you have to do is record a voice memo on your phone and simply tell us about your long distance serenade. We will have an email in the show notes for you to send your requests. Another difference with our segment is that we won't play the actual song. Instead, my friend John Collins, who we call the Renaissance Rebel, will sing your request. For these first few episodes, I needed to recruit some friends to help with this segment. This one comes from Carla Harrington, who now lives outside Chicago. Carla, tell us about your long-distance serenade.
Hi, my name's Carla, and I'm from Naperville, Illinois. My long-distance serenade goes out to a bunch of crazy college girls who chose music over warmth back in 1984. On a bitter cold night at Eastern Illinois University, my friends and I wanted desperately to see a new movie playing at the theater uptown. None of us were lucky enough to have cars, and this was long before Uber, so we were left to our own creativity to get there. The smart choice would have been to stay in and go another time, but we were determined, so we threw back a few beers and headed out in the cold. We walked the 1.5 miles in our 80s flats to see Purple Rain. We forgot all about our frozen digits once the movie started, and we didn't even notice the cold as we walked back to our dorms, singing and talking about Prince. Will you please play When Doves Cry, one of my favorite Prince songs, for my partners in cold that night, college friends from freshman year, most of whom I haven't seen in years. This one's for you.
Carla, here's your long-distance serenade for the Eastern Illinois gals who braved the cold to see Purple Rain with you in 1984.
Take, if you will, a picture of you and I engaged in a kiss. The sweat of your body covers me. Can you, my darling, can you picture a dream if you can, a courtyard of ocean and violets in bloom? Animals strike curious poses. They feel the heat between me and how could you just leave me standing alone in a world that's so cold? just too demanding. Maybe I'm just like my father, too bold. Maybe I'm just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Why do we scream at each other? This is what it sounds like when doves cry.
Since we are releasing this podcast before Thanksgiving, I thought I'd share with you a legendary tale that is shared around the Eichers Family Thanksgiving table almost every year. I tried to get my mom to help me out with this story, but she's a bit resistant to recording any stories. Now, if any of you know my mom, please encourage her to share some of her tales with us in future episodes. With that set up, I'll simply say, let me tell you a story. For those of you living outside Minnesota, I need to explain to you that it is usually pretty cold outside in November. Cold enough to use your garage as a walk-in fridge. And this comes in really handy when you are entertaining for the holidays. I have a screened-in porch, and during November and December, it is a walk-in fridge. And it transitions to a walk-in freezer during January and February. Anyway, growing up, Mom and Dad always used the attached garage for an overflow fridge. In the early 80s, when my brother first came home to Mankato from college, he and his friends would meet at a local drinking hole, the Stone Toad, the night before Thanksgiving for their annual turkey trot. By the time I was old enough to join them, the Stone Toad had turned into the Tav on the Ave, but the turkey trot remained a tradition among my brother and sister's friends. My siblings were married, and I think there was at least one niece on the scene when this story takes place. My mom and dad, they stayed home to take care of their grandchild, and we all headed to the Tav on the Ave for the turkey trot. Mom also uses Thanksgiving Eve to bake all her pies. That night, after the pies cooled off, Mom covered them and put them on a cookie sheet and placed them in the back seat of her car, which was in the garage. Now, most of the time, we just put stuff on this ladder out in the garage. But since these were special pies, she said she didn't want any creatures getting into them. So she put them in the back seat to be extra safe. Since this was a holiday, Dad had 2 cases of beer out there. He referred to them as suitcases. That night, we came home from the bar in shifts. My sister and brother-in-law probably left first. They're more responsible than the rest of us. And my brother probably made a detour to Zantigo's on the way home for a cheese chilito. And for some reason, probably because my sister-in-law hadn't been out in months since she had a toddler, we decided to stay out really late and close the bar down. I had some friends at the bar who could give us a ride home. After bar close, this nice fellow, who will remain nameless, dropped us off. Okay, for the purpose of the show and to protect his innocence, we will call him Stan. Stan dropped us off, and Melissa and I rolled in. Mom was still up, probably doing some last-minute dinner prep. We said goodnight and crashed until the parades came on the next day. When Dad headed out to the garage on Thanksgiving morning, he said to us, "Where's that second suitcase?" We all looked at him a bit baffled and said, "What?" And he said, "There were 2 cases of beer out here yesterday." Now, you should know my brother is a bit of a prankster, so I think we all just thought he just hid the second case. We completely blew off my dad's Columbo moment. We were absolutely unconcerned about this. After finishing an incredible Thanksgiving feast later that day, we did the dishes and it was time for dessert. Mom asked Melissa to head out to the garage to get the 2 pies in the back seat of her car. Melissa came back and said, "Joanne, there's only 1 in there." Mom said, "No, I put them in the back seat." And Mom went out to investigate, and sure enough, only 1 pumpkin pie. Well, the Eichers were not concerned about a missing case of beer, but a missing pumpkin pie? Good Lord, this was something we needed to call in Angela Lansbury to help solve. Needless to say, the family was joking a lot about Stan, since he was the last one to drop us off. He was our number 1 suspect. But like I said, Stan was way too nice, and we all knew it wasn't him. The pie beer thief had acquired taste. Mom was really bummed out because of the 2 pies, he grabbed the fancy one, the one in her brand new pie plate, and it also had a new recipe with nut topping on the pumpkin pie. Later that day, I discovered that a bag of clothes I purchased at the Eddie Bauer Friends and Family sale, that was missing from my car that was in the driveway. We are still baffled by a few things. What do you think this thief thought when he opened the back seat of Mom's car and saw 2 pies? And why didn't he just haul off with 2 cases of beer? And can you imagine what okay, Mom says it might have been a woman. I can't assume it was a guy. So she says I can't use he. Okay, so can you imagine what this bandit looked like walking down Agency Road carrying these items in the middle of the night? This case of the missing beer, pie, and bag of women's clothes is one of the greatest Eichers unsolved mysteries. While this case still today remains open, the doors to the garage, they never again remained unlocked. That's it for episode 3. It's a wrap for all of our launch week episodes. We hope you have enjoyed them and will subscribe. Our plan is to launch 1 new episode a week. Thanks so much to Carla Harrington for sharing that freshman year movie memory, and to JC, the Renaissance Rebel. When I gave him an assignment, as a huge Prince fan, I knew he would feel the pressure, and he said, wow, that's a tough one. But after hearing it, I think you'll agree he nailed it. And don't forget, we need you to submit requests for this segment. Check out the show notes to learn how. And thanks to my sister Annie. It was fun to have her back to chat low-carb treats. Don't forget, she is currently offering 25% off and made in Minnesota copper enamel jewelry. Check the show notes for the details. Huge thanks to my niece Josie, who built our website and is managing our digital marketing. Because of her, you've been seeing our Crash Test Diva logo all over your social media feeds. And if you haven't been seeing them, please look for us on all your social media feeds. And I really want to thank the talented designer who created our fabulous logo, Michelle Herzberg. You, my friend, you are wildly talented, and I'm so blessed you've been a part of so many of my adventures. Finally, a huge shout out to Genetic Drift. They're the guys who created our very catchy theme song. I absolutely love it, and I hope it is your new favorite earworm. If you live in the Twin Cities area, follow Genetic Drift on Facebook so you can hear them live. You can see where they're going to be performing next. Again, we'll link to this in the show notes. Join us for episode 4, where I'll share a Ding Dong Doozie that I'm reminded of on a regular basis. Our Long Distance Serenade will feature a song from an 80s Aussie band, and we'll introduce a new reoccurring guest. She's been using a laxative in a very untraditional way, and we'll talk about it in our Taking It for a Test Drive segment. Thanks again for listening. I hope you've been able to escape a little of your own reality and enjoyed the show. If you have a friend you think might like our little variety podcast, please share it with them. Remember, bruises are like life. The harder you get hit, the more colorful and interesting they get.